Well, welcome to our Wednesday morning devotions. Thank you again for joining with us. We're continuing to think about the value of human life. What gives us that sense of identity and meaning? I suspect if we talk in biological terms and we ask that question, how much are we worth? We're going to end up very disappointed. Because, of course, biologically, most of what we are is water. We have a few other elements. Probably on the open market, we're worth nothing more than about 150 on a good day. But then, of course, we know that's not true. You only have to look at the human eye. It's incredibly complex. And we are complex. And we are amazing. And we are diverse. Of course, time and time again, we read how people value, or perhaps don't value, human life. A footballer can be worth £100 million. A kid living in Africa, spending most of his time trying to drink from dirty water. Well, that kid is only worth the loose change in our pockets. And of course, ever since the first human life emerged, the question of value was an open-ended one. It was up for grabs. From Cain right through to the massacre of innocent lives in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan. What value do we place on human life? Well, of course, the Bible has something very different to tell us. It talks about this wonderful relationship that we have between us and God. We are part of His creation. We are created. And as we thought about yesterday, we are designer people. We are created in God's image. There is something about us. There is something about God. We receive life as a gift. All of life is a gift from the loving presence and the gracious presence of our Creator. That acknowledges, of course, that at times life is difficult and painful and challenging, but that never diminishes our value and therefore renews our hope. We often, of course, talk about the sanctity of life, that life is precious, it's sacred, it's holy. And it's a powerful reminder that no life is less precious or sacred or holy than any others. As somebody said, quoting God in an imaginary way, I love no one more than I love you. But I don't love you more than anyone else. Let me read again from Psalm 139. I'm just going to read verses 13 to 16, and then I'm going to add some words from Jeremiah chapter 1 and verses 4 and 5 for us. Let me read verses 13 to 16. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the sacred place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And then words from Jeremiah chapter 1 and verses 4 and 5. The word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Over the last couple of 100 years, and possibly even longer, there has been a huge debate about that question, when is it that human life begins? It's a question that people have even fought over. And of course, it remains a very sensitive and emotive question. But nonetheless, it's a very important one. People come at it from all kinds of different angles. You can do it biologically. You can talk about it in emotional terms. You can talk about it in spiritual terms, psychological terms. This morning, again, I just want to reflect on what these two amazing passages of Scripture are telling us to help us to begin to grapple with that question, when is it that human life begins? I think in this chapter, in these verses, in these two passages, we're invited to see the whole question of the beginning of human life from a very different perspective. It's from the perspective of eternity, the eternal perspective. It invites us to think about our own human existence in this world at this time and the eternal existence that we often refer to as heaven, in terms of a curtain which separates the two. The curtain separates the two, heaven and earth, and occasionally Scripture or even a vision from God, an insight that God brings us, gives us a glimpse just beyond the curtain of the relationship between the eternal and the here and now. It's just like the curtain in the temple that was torn apart at the moment of Jesus' death. So sometimes God reveals to us the places and actions where heaven touches earth. And I think what we have in these two passages of Scripture is a view that's beyond the human. It's looking beyond the curtain. And the psalmist and the writer of Jeremiah want to tell us something quite amazing. The psalmist, in his poem, celebrates the incredible way that God creates us. He pictures God like a skilled craftsman, God taking all our component parts and knitting us together to make us who we are. And God is seen to do that with such delight and diligence and skill and wonder. We're also made aware that this is a very fearful and sacred process. But on the other side of the curtain, maybe that side that we observe through a scanner in a hospital, that side also is no less amazing and filled with wonder. The word that God brings to Jeremiah goes a long way into the eternal perspective. Jeremiah is told that God knew him, he chose him before he came to be. Not just in a conceptual way, but in a relational way, a covenantal way. It's that word know again. It's intimate and it's relational. It's just not that God is saying, I knew one day I was going to make you. It's God saying, I knew you even before you were formed in the womb, even before you came to be who you were to become. Sometimes looking at things from the eternal perspective almost leaves us gasping for air. We are known to God before we came to be. I won't speculate on that any further. It'd be interesting to see how you view that. But it does add some significance to that question. When is it that human life begins? When do we begin to take on our identity? And I think it adds another level, or maybe several levels, to that sense of how precious and sacred and holy and unique we are. and how sacred and how important it is to maintain that sense of the sanctity of life, the significance of all people's lives. What does it mean to us this morning to know that we were known to God before even we became who we are?
You wrote the story of my life. You go before, you fall behind. Yeah. Before a breath, beyond my death, you are with